So my good friend Maria wanted to be able to create a document on her iPad that she could use with some of her clients. She's going to ask them certain questions. So I thought I'd create this video to show you how to create a form that you can use with your iPad Pro. Opening pages, I'm going to go into the document settings and convert to page layout. You can get rid of the margins and go back into the document and start to bring in some sample fields that maybe you would use. Maybe you name them for what you're looking for. So we can call this name. Go ahead and duplicate this, and we'll make that into our date field here. So line those up. There's some ways that you can eyeball this, and or if you want, you can use some of the tools. I'll show that in a little bit. But for now, just getting going very quickly, create this little group. Now if I wanted, I could rename these to something else. But first, let's go ahead and put a divider in. Drag this into position. Okay, there you go. So now you could imagine coming in with your Apple Pencil and maybe writing your client's name here and putting the date in. And I'm gonna go ahead and restyle this, make it a little bit lighter so that it isn't the thing that stands out so much. And we'll go ahead and use that as a group. To group, you want to just use multi-touch. You're going to put your finger on the item that you want to start with and then select all the other items that you want to be a part of that group. And then you can hit the group button that pops up or Command-Shift-G on your keyboard if you're using a keyboard. So create another field. And if you like, you can move these in and out once they're grouped. So if you've got multiple items in an area, or you can delete it. I think that's just what I'm going to do here. So you could imagine, how you're going to choose to use this. For now, we could think about that as just a large group area. Maybe you're going to make some notes here, or maybe I'll come back and do something creative with it in a minute. So bring this down and ungroup it, get rid of that field or that line, and we're going to create checkboxes. There's a couple different ways we can do this, but we'll just use a little square. So imagine that if you wanted to say, are you suffering from any allergies? Do you have any pets? Cats, dogs, fish, gerbils, whatever it is. So we'll get rid of the fill so it's not filled in. Makes it a little easier to see. And go ahead and resize this. And here I'm just going to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And there you go. Duplicate that. By the way, that's Command-D on your keyboard. If you're using a keyboard, you can tap and hit copy-paste. If you're working with the on-screen controls, so label for item 1, duplicate that again, make that label for item 2. Get these words and labels spelled right. Group that up, duplicate it, drag it over, create another one. And now if you wanted, you could go through and select all 3 groups and align those correctly, get that typo taken care of. And then finally, let's say you wanted to create another area where you're going to create some notes. So we'll just take this line and we'll drag it down, duplicate it a bunch of times. And there's other ways you could go about creating this. If you wanted, you could bring in a photo of lined paper. If you liked a little bit of that texture, you could use a pattern. I'm just going to go ahead and create a handful of these lines and then use multi-select, and we'll use the align tool and the distribute tool. So we're going to distribute them vertically and align them left. We'll add some more in. There we go. Get them selected. Oh, I missed one. Here we go. Get them all selected. Align left and distribute vertically. And then we'll just position those with the keyboard. We could group them and drag them around if we wanted. So I've got an idea of what we can do here. We'll call this notes. And since we're not going to use the blank area up the top as notes, maybe we should do something with it. So let's go ahead and move that up. And then switch this out so that it's a series of things that with a pencil would be really easy for me to underline So you could imagine if you wanted to put characteristics or something that was pretty common for somebody to have over and over. Are they, I don't know, are they married or not married? Are they a parent, or are they in school? Whatever it is that you wanted to ask them, you could have a series of checkboxes, but you could also then have, are you taking any sorts of medications? But we'll just leave these alone as things that you might either cross out or underline or circle, right? That type of thing. And now we're going to switch gears. So I'm going to export this over to GoodNotes, which is one of my favorite apps. And we're going to import this in, and it's essentially going to then be a PDF document that we'll use as our template with our pencil. So I'm going to rename this medical intake. And now you can see that our document, the thing that we laid out so quickly, is available for us to write in. Now, we make our notes. So Tom Jones is our patient, and we're going to jump into, at least for recording, the future a little bit and put a date here. I don't understand why I do this, but I make my twos different sometimes. So we can circle things, we can cross things out. Perfect. Our labels, check those boxes, and then here we go. We'll make some notes. And depending on how much room you like in your notes, you could adjust this, right? You could go back in and make these a little bigger, a little smaller. GoodNotes has a tool for putting in lines, and you might want to align it with that. It's the item right next to the pen tool. I don't personally like it, but that's just for me. And of course, because I created this in a portrait layout, I would actually flip the iPad, but I didn't want the iPad video to change orientation on you right in the middle, so I'm leaving it in landscape, which feels a little goofy, but it works. Okay, and then with GoodNotes, all you got to do is drag off to the side, and we're on to our next patient. So here we're going to go ahead and put in Steve Rogers, and being that I'm recording this on July 4th, we'll go ahead and put in July 4th, and yeah, this is just the same stuff. Okay, so that's how this could work. And then if you're not familiar, inside of GoodNotes, there's this search functionality that makes it super powerful. And you can see we're on the page with Steve, but if we search for the page with Tom, it'll jump to the page with Tom. And I think that's really all we need to talk about.